There's a lot of things that I suck at doing, whether it's math, writing, socializing, keeping my plants alive, playing piano, remembering things, keeping track of time, doing voiceovers, making videos, driving, and just pretty much everything else. But there's always something that everyone is good at, or at least decent at, other than bed rotting or doom scrolling all day. For me, it's making clothes. So today, I'm gonna be generating as many clothes as I can from my knitting machine because that's the only talent I have, and I'm kind of desperate for money, but don't tell anyone that. P.S. I'm gonna be selling everything that I make in this video on Depop, so definitely check it out. Link in the description. The first victim we got, yarn, is this dark and light brown blend, 100% acrylic, size 5mm fiber that I got for $4.99, well, pretty much $5 at Hobby Lobby. I picked it out because I really like the brown shade. It reminds me of the tree bark and nature. After setting up the knitting machine, I am threading the yarn and is ready to knit the first row. Knitting the first few rows on the knitting machine is kind of hard because the tension is super tight, but then once I get the momentum going, it is super fast and easy, and the rest is just like smooth sailing from there. For the first project, I'm going to be doing a combination of stockinette and ribbing stitches. So for the first 40 rows, I'm going to be knitting, and for the remainder of the 50 rows, I'm going to be ribbing. So in total, I'm going to have 90 rows. After I finished knitting the 40th row, I went ahead and latched off every third stitches to create the ribbing effect. By the way, if you're wondering what kind of knitting machine I'm using the Incredible Brother sweater machine that I got from eBay for $80 for a pretty good deal compared to the other knitting machines that were available on eBay. Also, if you're interested in learning how to use a knitting machine, I might drop a tutorial in the future because honestly, I know how frustrating it was for me to try to learn how to use this knitting machine for the first time, because when I tried to cast on for the first time, I thought it was broken and I thought I got ripped off. I was so upset, but then I finally figured it out, and I want to save all that hassle and stress from you by making a simplified demonstration on how to use this type of knitting machine. Over here, I am casting off with a needle. I usually do this part by hand so that I'll have a stretchy bind off so it doesn't feel like the clothing is choking me when I wear it. And here's the most satisfying part about working in the knitting machine is that I just get to pull the project right off the needle when I'm finished. Here's a close-up on how it turned out. Now that I finished knitting the front and the back, it's time to sew them together. I'm starting off by sewing the shoulder seam, then attaching the sides together. And here's how the top turned out when I tried it on. You can wear the top in two different ways. You can have it slightly off the shoulder or on the shoulder, depending on your preference. I was debating on whether I should leave it as a tank top or add sleeves, but I think I'm just gonna leave it as it is because it already looks good, and I'm just gonna use the remainder of the yarn for something else. For the second yarn, I got this beige colored yarn with a hint of green and yellow, and it got a little bit of shimmer to it. Because if you look up closely, you could see that the yarn is infused with this thin golden thread. Anyways, I kind of sound like a food critic analyzing a 3 Michelin star dish, but all I'm trying to say is that this is some nice yarn. Alright, moving on, I cannot wait to cast this on to see how it looks like in its knitted form. Knitting the first row was kind of a tough start as always since the tension is tight and one of the stitch dropped off the needle, which is kind of annoying but not too much of a problem with a quick fix. I'm just casting on 50 stitches, the same amount of stitches I did previously, except this time I'm just doing a stockinette stitch. And here's a little hack that I used whenever I needed to thread my yarn through the needle eye. Before I knew about this hack, I used to just wet the tip of the yarn and twist it to fit it through the hole. So instead of using water to wet the tip of the yarn, I used glue stick instead. And that way, what it does is that it shapes the yarn into this pointy shape and it stays in place. So it makes it much more easier to go through the hole. For this project, I also knitted 90 rows just like the last time to make it cropped. Here's how the front of the top is supposed to look like. I am planning to make this a backless top. I've been seeing a lot of those tops on Pinterest and I want to make one myself. I love how pretty the yarn looks when it's knitted. You can see the blended fibers up close and just really appreciate the detail. To make the top backless, I only had to make the arm straps. To do that, I put the shoulder seam back onto the needles about 14 stitches wide and knitted for 30 rows. Here's how it looks like when it's finished. This project was really quick and easy to make since I didn't have to knit the back part. All I had to do was knit the front and the arm straps and the tie to close it at the back. This top would definitely be perfect for your hot summer day on the beach, for tanning, if you ever want to tan your back, show off your back and all that. For the third contestant we got this nice beige and brown ombre colored yarn. I really like this because it kind of looks like the color of Jupiter. I'm also going to be using this wooden beads for embellishment. For this project, I'm also going to be casting 50 stitches. This time, I'm going to be making a summer bodycon dress with a backless cutout. To make the cutout on the back, I knitted 200 rows for the skirt, then transferred half the stitches or 25 stitches onto a stitch holder. Leaving the other half on the knitting machine, I decreased the stitches until I had 14 stitches left on the needles, then continued to knit for 50 more rows. Once I knitted 50 rows, I started to increase until I got 25 stitches on the needles. Then I put the other half onto the knitting machine and repeated the same steps. Now that I finished knitting the front and the back paneling, I get to sew the sides and the shoulder seams together. Here's how the dress turned out. It looks plain and simple in the front, but it's a party in the back. I forgot to film how I made this beaded string at the back, but basically what I did was that I crocheted a single chain and beaded it with those wooden beads and just attached it to the dress. Whenever I make those types of backless dresses, I usually like to connect the cutouts with those strings to keep it intact and for the dress to stay fitted. When I tried on the dress, I was surprised at how short the dress came out. I was expecting it to be at least like a midi length, but it turned out to be more of a mini length, which I can't really complain about because it still looks amazing and it would be such a great beach dress. Even after using up 2 balls of yarns out of 3, I still had 1 remaining yarn and I just used that to make a top. Here I casted on 50 stitches and knitted for 100 rows. And over here I'm casting off the stitches. Here's me holding up the front and the back panelings. And here's me attempting to do a cool transition. I hope that came out smoothly. To make the string, I am crocheting a single chain and I'm adding 3 beads at the end for extra details. Then tying a knot at the end to secure it in place. And here is the finished product. You can wear this top in 2 different ways. You can just leave it as a bow or just tie it around your neck to turn it into like a halter top. Now that I think about it, you can probably wear this as a skirt as well. I didn't really get a chance to try it on as a skirt in this video since I didn't think of that at the time, but it would definitely look cute as both a skirt and a top. Our final victim is this nice light and dark blue ombre colored yarn. I love this blue color. It looks like lapis lazuli and the color of Uranus. I'm starting off by knitting the front of the dress. Just like with all the other projects, I'm gonna be casting on 50 stitches and knitting for 300 rows. Using the stitch holder, I transferred 36 stitches onto the holder, leaving about 14 stitches on the knitting machine. Then I continued to knit for 36 more rows to make the arm straps. Then Then I repeated the same steps on the other side to make the second arm straps. And I also made the back of the dress by knitting 200 rows. Here I am just assembling everything by stitching the sides and the arm straps together. And after hours of sewing and knitting, I finally finished the dress. I love how the gradient of the yarn turned out. Turning around, you're probably wondering why there's a huge chunk of white on the back, but turns out I miscalculated how much yarn it's gonna take to make the dress, and I ran out of yarn, and I didn't really want to spend another money on the same ball of yarn, so I ended up just using what I already had at home and just used that white yarn instead to finish the rest of the dress. At first, I thought the white part of the dress looked kind of awkward and just out of place, but now that I look at it more, I think it adds a sense of uniqueness and kind of like a element of surprise, which I like. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video. I made about 5 items, which was a lot in a week. I am burnt out at this point. I can't really make anything else. But anyways, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm gonna be listing every one of the items made in this video on my Depop shop, so definitely check it out. I'm gonna have it linked down in the description. I would appreciate any support for my online shop, and if you can't really buy anything from my shop, I would appreciate it if you share it to other people, your friends, your family, whatever. You know, just get it out there. And one more thing I want to share before I end the video is how I started the video saying I suck at almost everything, which I don't believe is true. I do suck at some things, and we all do. And one of the things that I suck at doing is staying consistent. And especially with my YouTube channel, I think the last time I uploaded was about a year ago. You know, I have a habit of being motivated to make a video and upload it. And I would tell myself, like, I would upload like at least 1 or 2 videos a week, and it ends up not happening. So I hope I won't make the same mistake. I know I said that the last time to myself, and I feel like I'm gonna break that promise again, but I'm gonna try my hardest to keep my word for it and actually make it happen this time. It's like making New Year's resolution, where you just like make a bunch of ambitious goals to complete for the year, and it just never happens. It's just like the year's almost over. It feels like it's like almost halfway over, and I haven't achieved any of my goals. And you know, I just want to break the cycle, to be honest. But anyways, I really want to finish the video and actually upload it, so I'm just gonna stop yapping and end the video for real. Anyways, if you made it this far, thank you for watching.